All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for Noragami, Season 2, Episode 13.
Last episode was a tad hype.
Yeah.
You know, there were some things that happened in that episode that
Bishamon,
were
Yato.
right bit badass.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Also, Heaven's using Death Star laser bombardment stuff into the human world.
And it's something that is actually about to wipe out, not just necessarily like Ebisu, but could do some serious damage to the rest of our crew.
Yeah, they firing point blank from the ground.
Yeah, and honing in now on a specific target here with Ebisu. The question of whether or not we're going to be able to save him here at this point where it's just come down to, well, everyone's essentially abandoning him, but he still wants to live.
Yep.
Doesn't he have that right to
Because,
live?
damn
Even
it,
if he doesn't, necessarily have, the greatest track record as a god of being one that sticks around for long.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
He wants to see that old lady at the Olive Tavern, damn it.
Yes, exactly.
Every time that she comes to bring those...
great grand reason.
Exactly.
That's enough.
The smile that she gives him and the way she asks about his day every time she brings that unlimited breadsticks refill back.
Yes.
That's reason enough.
Exactly. And then, guys, this is the last episode of Season 2, but we'll have one more reaction after this before we shift on to the new stuff, which will be the A Picture Together OVA.
Right.
And then that will be the end of our Noragami journey.
But hey, since it probably won't be long until Season 3... No, I'm sorry. That was mean.
That was cruel.
That was cruel.
That was very cruel. Disappointed.
Yeah.
Y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion.
Okay.
All right, okay.
Final episode,
That's
there we go.
Finale.
Yep.
Oh
That is
my
definitely
God.
one heck of a finale.
That is a fantastic finale.
Because the Noragami has wonderful action. But the main draw of it is the characters.
Yep.
And ever since the beginning of the show, Nora was always hella creepy. Hella creepy, right? So the idea that now Yato has finally cut the ties.
Severed the relationship.
Unnamed right?
Her.
Unnamed her.
Yep.
She has no hold over him officially. I love it, right?
Yep.
It's fantastic. It's great. There is no other place I would rather have it end.
And I don't think it was necessarily implied directly, but this whole concept of the guiding voice, there's a possibility that based around the connections that Yato had being so few, there's a possibility that Nora was fulfilling that role as well up until that time. We don't know how direct of a you are my guiding voice kind of thing it has to be. It might just be whatever regalia you have.
Right. By definition, they are the guiding voice because they're
the only one.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But then Yukine comes along, and Yukine is basically, in a weird way, you think about to how he was introduced in the beginning, he radiated such pure light. He was such this bright, shining little soul, but he was young, and everyone made mention over and over again of how young he was, and they were worried about that for some reason.
Dying young. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And the obvious implication is that he could end up blighting his master in this case.
And he did.
He does.
Yeah.
But over the course of that, they grow a lot closer together, but also they come to understand each other's limitations and flaws a little bit.
Right.
Now, they're not perfectly just relationship-wise, just everything's wonderful now.
It's still a family, and as such, there's work that needs to be done to keep it strong and healthy and all that stuff, and there's times of tension and all that.
Yeah, and Yato has his, creepy ex in some ways with Nora and stuff, and while they, share a father and stuff, and it's a bit, kind of creepy in that regard, in that there's that Azula Zuko kind of potential vibe as well.
It's all sorts of messed up.
Yeah. It felt really cathartic here to have maybe even, maybe a little bit maybe this is something that was accelerated pacing wise just so that they could get it in the anime as well. Because they basically went, time skipped through his recovery, and then, from there he goes to just, Ebisu, you showed me a picture of what it is like for a god to step outside
of the bounds of sort of what that people say they can be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that you can do something great to help others. And he's like,
All right.
I want to be like you.
Yep.
You brought the hate of like so many people in the established order things upon you because you're doing it in a way that they didn't like, but you were really doing something wonderful to potentially help just people. And you will keep going at that over and over and over again because of it being so ingrained in you. And like every reincarnation will do that.
Oh, and the whole idea of Ebisu going after the phantoms and turning them into regalia and things like that, like, yes, you could say very dangerous and stuff, and it got him in a lot of trouble in previous reincarnations and all that stuff, or previous incarnations, I should say. But isn't that kind of a parallel for Yato's whole journey, right? Not the whole idea of being turned into regalia, but the idea of the thing that was ugly, the thing that caused destruction and pain and all of that. The thing that just about everyone would turn their nose up at and potentially be like, we actually need to put this down, you know? But no, maybe it can be different. Maybe it can help. Maybe it can be appreciated. Maybe eventually people will end up, you know, thinking about Yato and being like, I'll send up a prayer to him every once in a while. Sure.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the dynamic of Yato's character being one of I want to live, but I also don't want to just fulfill the expected purpose that goes along a certain set of parameters.
I want to be me.
I want to be able to choose my own name. I want to be able to choose my own life, and it feels very human. In that we're in this world of gods and regalias and phantoms and all that. And yet Yato's connection, if you will, to the human world seems to be this thing that keeps pulling him further and further away from the, you are a god of destruction, you are a god of, you know, misfortune, calamity, and stuff like that. That is who you are. That is what you were essentially incarnated into the iteration of specifically
supply and demand.
Right, but like now I'm like thinking about that in general, and couldn't that just as easily have been something that wasn't his entirely like choice, or like something that was even like the way it had to be? Like the question I have more realistically is just that Yato being able to choose this, like just having the ability to do this, that feels like something that can't last without extreme amounts of conflict. Meaning that other forces will come into his life and his environment that will demand that he do the exact opposite of that.
Right, and we've already seen that. The whole thing of when, you know, him going to Nora and being like, nope, I'm done, and her being like, that's cute, you know, I'll stick the dogs on you, and we'll see who does what when.
And you can stay with me and Dad, and we'll have a month of time where everyone else will forget you. Yep,
and we'll just go around killing things. And apparently, we can talk about this later in the discussion, because that was but apparently the red-eyed boy...
Fujisaki, or whatever his name was.
Right, yeah. That liked Hiyori.
That kissed Hiyori.
That kissed Hiyori.
Is actually the father.
Yato's dad, it seems like?
And you are the father!
Like, let me tell you, I've seen some shit in romance stories, whether it's dedicated romance stories or like romance subplots or whatever, where the competition has to be made to be the absolutely awful, so that way there's a reason to resolve things with them in a non-traditional way, in a non-rejection way or whatever, right? Sure. Outside of the romance, right? It's they're the evil, you know, the CEO or whatever that's actually going to kill kittens and whatever.
You know what this feels like to me? This feels like to me if Envy, you know, tried to seduce Winry in Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yeah, it's just like
why?
What? No.
Who does this?
Yeah.
Like I get let's be real. I get what he's doing.
Oh yeah.
He's trying to make her forget Yato.
Yep,
it's extremely effective.
Right. It is definitely effective. It makes sense within the character and things like that. It helps him achieve his objectives.
The world mechanics. Because we know what happens if everyone forgets Yato.
Oh no, yeah. But also within the what we've gotten from the dad, right? If he wants Yato to be able to be controlled, right, then he wants Yato to be isolated, right? So,
I gotcha.
So if if Yato doesn't have any ties to the human world, then he'll just go back to the only ties he has, which is him.
Right. I was thinking outside of that, we have no understanding as to why he has to be the one to do that.
Oh,
like
right, yeah. Why couldn't he have just had
her show up in her? Well, okay, no, actually, let's be real. I know the reason why. If she showed up in her tail form, basically, all he'd have to do is just snip and it's over.
Okay, that's true.
But the reason why is because, we want her to be around in the story, so
Well, it feels like some really creepy Tywin sleeping with Shay shit.
Yes.
It's like what
that's
the
a great
fuck?
comparison. Even though it's it's just a
kiss, right?
Just a kiss,
but because
he did force it too.
Well, but also this is the other thing. She's in high school. You don't need to intervene much for something like that to happen.
Yeah.
Like that they just as easily could have had him just watching and being like, yes, good, subarashi, right?
Right, and have it be a thing where
the kid be someone completely normal,
right? Or just Yato just ends up being away for too long, and she would have probably just forgotten.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because that's the whole thing of the if you don't see them there, the whole thing with the silence, where if they don't they end up avoiding looking at them and stuff.
And from the standpoint of maybe he knows that he'll only be able to keep Yato shackled or whatever for so long before Yato starts to
Yato is
he's
still
a god,
ultimately a god, so there's that, and we don't know,
it gets complicated,
and we don't know entirely what he is. I assume on some level he is a god.
We know he's a god because he apparently is the actual conjurer that was in heaven that was causing trouble, and he just threw Ebisu under the bus, and apparently also was so he was the person in the thing
in the colloquy
who is
definitely the one with the long hair,
the long black hair, who is definitely the person who killed Ebisu, etc., etc. Okay, all right. So, which means that he can change his form. Nothing too crazy for a god to do.
For a god, that
doesn't
seem too crazy, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like most of the time the fact that they would keep their forms is because, one, they just don't need to change their forms because humans don't pay attention to them. And two, they're egotistical, beings that they take pride in their identity.
But this is the other part. Is that boy then just an unwilling... passenger.
It could be being
that could be a poor boy that needs to be saved. Then.
Sure, yeah.
I would say probably
Well,
not.
So the whole thing that you were saying of it being the dad, I totally get that, and it does make a lot more sense than what I was originally thinking. What I was originally thinking,
what are you talking about?
With the at the end when we see Nora and all the phantoms and stuff, and the kid that kissed Hiyori, yeah. At first, I thought that was like some sort of long-lost brother or something, because I was like, clearly, it's not actually the father, because he looks different. He's younger and stuff. But, that it's a lot better in that it's worse and creepier and more awful if it's actually the father, and that is what it was being implied.
Who else would it be?
Right, exactly. Way easier to have it, Occam's razor, Simplest solution is most often the right one.
Right. If anything, it kind of answers a couple questions I had of, why is this guy getting introduced? And it's like,
why does he have red eyes?
Why does he have red eyes?
That was
the kind of things that make me go, Caleb, just shut up. It's an anime.
Right, it's an anime. They can have red eyes. It's fine. Well, and also I was thinking that sure, it's putting him in a negative light because he's the competition, right? So it's just the he's a totally normal, good-looking kid, right? And it's like,
it could be Shirogane from Kaguya-sama.
Exactly.
He literally kind of has that get up,
Yeah. But no, the red eyes is just to sort of be like, we know the audience doesn't like this guy because they're like, no, what's happening? He's making her forget Yato.
And it's to make you maybe a little bit unsettled of like, okay.
Right. Well, but then, no, it's actually
it's
like
the worst possible iteration.
All right.
The worst.
Which I will say, now granted, it's probably just that he made sure that they weren't around when he was interacting with Hiyori. But can you imagine how awkward that would have been if some of the phantoms came around and they were like, hey, master, and he's like, shut up, go away, and then Hiyori's like, what? But
yeah, that's another thing that's
Yeah.
kind of crazy is that, he's walking around there with all those phantoms, and Yato, Yukine, and Hiyori, who all have connections beyond the near shore, didn't sense any of those phantoms up on the bridge over there.
he's palpatining it, the dark side of the force offers many abilities some consider to be unnatural.
Yeah, if anything, that's the part that's freaky, is that he's doing things that betray his power potential.
Right.
He's changing his form, but it's not necessarily changing a form. It could be a possession, which, remember the OVA? With the whole possession thing, and it was treated for comedy and stuff?
Oh, that's right.
That brought about some mechanics with regards to possession.
It did. And actually, the eyes were one of the things that kind of stayed the same. So, actually, this could just be he possessed some kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense than he inserted himself into the world or whatever and all that stuff.
Right. Okay, that could have just been set up in general for the, hey, by the way, the enemy is about to possess a poor high school boy to get
right
to get into Hiyori's business.
Yeah, which is okay.
Yeah.
Here's another thing that I just want to point out, and this is going into things a bit deep here, right? So bear with me here.
Yato?
No.
Okay.
One of the things that's tough whenever you have an entity, a person, an antagonist or whatever, a villain that is scheming and they're competent.
Sure.
You run the issue of, why would we ever find out about it? Because ideally, if they're really that good, right, you would never know. Now,
You have to do third-person omniscient
you
stuff
have to do
like they did
third-person
here.
omniscient stuff like you do here,
The
right?
characters would never find out.
Exactly. The characters never
Or not-
find out,
not
but they're doing all
anytime
this
soon.
stuff. But then comes the other issue of, especially if they're dealing in a realm where there are a bunch of other powerful beings that could smite them if they all found out about him and ganged up on him,
Sure.
then he would be especially motivated to make sure that no one ever finds out what's going on.
Right.
Now, now we've established that phantoms can be sensed. So, I believe...
Well, that's the thing. There's unique types of senses in general.
Right.
Some people have senses that don't show up in other characters.
Sure, like Hiyori being able to smell things and whatnot.
Yes.
But here's the thing.
Specifically smelling Yato.
Well, yeah, specifically smelling Yato.
Yeah.
So here's what stands out to me about this. He's parading around with phantoms here. This is something that would immediately draw attention to him. Forget Yato and everyone else, right? That's just something that, while narratively it makes for a quick way to communicate what's going
How
on
big
to
of a
us,
deal
the
this
audience.
is.
Right. For him as a character, and this is why I think I might be reading too deep into this, it doesn't make sense for him to do that unless he's so good that he can actually Palpatine it and be being all dark-sidey and stuff right next to all the Jedi and everything. And
there's no way.
Even when Yoda turns and looks at him and is like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
He just smiles and is like, what are you talking about? And keeps going about his business. And that shit is terrifying.
That is terrifying.
That is actually
That's some
terrifying.
Eisen shit right
That's some Eisen stuff. That is more of a display and a representation of just how badass the person is, how competent they are, than any amount of like big energy blasts or whatever, or things like that.
Yeah, you just assume either we don't know about all the mechanics, or we assume that the character is intelligent. Thus, then, when something like this, which is primarily for the third-person omniscient, pass along the info to you of not just that this is the father, but also he's got the locution brush and all these phantoms in his employ.
Yep.
That's for us. But if we wanted to look into the
world
whole
mechanics
thing
of
it,
it,
just assume, there's zero chance that he has of getting discovered by doing this.
Right.
Which is that's a cool way to then further build up his character as a threat.
Yep. Because usually the way you get around that, if you want to have them do these kinds of things, and it's something that happens fairly commonly and less so in recent times with stories, but is you have the person be an egomaniac, right?
Yeah.
So they get off on the fact that they're actually sort of putting themselves out there because they're like, and yet I'm not being touched, right? The harder daddy, right? That's part of their whole thing, right? And
Right.
it can go into the whole thing of them being mentally unstable or whatever, or just generally kind of psycho, right?
It's one of my favorite things that gets brought up in a deconstructed way in Megamind, where
Yes.
both
Yes.
parties at the end
Yes.
are megalo egomaniacs, basically, and they're just
It's
egoing
great.
back and forth at each other.
If you haven't seen Megamind,
it's genius.
check it out. It's
hilarious.
wonderful. It doesn't get the proper attention it deserves. But so in this situation, while it's possible that he could be an egomaniac, what we've gotten so far, I don't think he is.
No, I
don't think he is at all.
Way more pragmatic than that.
Way more pragmatic. So that means that this stuff that's actually really scary that he's doing this.
He's the mastermind manipulator.
Yeah.
Which is a very cool just throwback again to the archetype of villain that came from another show with the spirit swords that talked with their wielders.
And then heaven ends up becoming corrupted and infiltrated by an enemy that then needs to be defeated.
That employs the demon things to utilize it. Yeah.
I am so down for this. Like,
look, I'm you, but way better.
Exactly.
So
right.
Go for it. Go for it.
No one who has problems with Bleach has problems with the Soul Society arc. You know, like that was all. So
it looks like so far they're basically saying, hey, you want to read the manga?
Yeah.
Here's a really good reason we're gonna get into some Eisen shit, basically, which is exciting. Which is exciting. I mean, I have heard that the manga is really good, and since also that the manga is apparently still ongoing,
right?
That's something where it's probably gone far beyond this, beyond this.
And yet, season 3 never. Yeah.
And add that to the list of things along with what? Spice and Wolf?
Spice and Wolf, Haruhi, Black Lagoon, like there are
there's another list, and those are the
many.
season 2 nevers, but we don't need to go with that. That list is really long.
Yeah.
Okay. But the stuff with Yukine, I wanted to call special attention to it. I did a little bit in the reaction, but it was the idea that in the beginning of the episode, we kind of have Hiyori and Yukine having their little bit of conversation, letting us know how much time has passed. Well, no, not just that time has passed, but also where the center of the character conflict is going to be this episode. And it's that, is Yato okay? Yukine, though, is just, he doesn't know what to do.
Right.
And what I really love about this is when a character is losing their connection to their purpose regarding where they'll go, writing-wise, that's a really ripe time to write in a new motivation for them.
Sure.
But what they did here was way better than that. They basically said, okay, the person who wrote this basically said, okay, we're going to have Yato, if anything, be the one that's losing purpose.
Right.
Trying to find it again in the act of helping out this young boy, Ebisu, here, and just taking him to the Olive Tavern. That's so wholesome and sweet.
I love it.
I love it so much. The old lady being there, just something that we knew was going to be a thing because they brought it up earlier, but that's such a sweet touch to connect us to the human type of the story here, because it can get sometimes a little bit hard to connect to the emotion of it if it's too much in the spiritual kind of gods kind of stuff.
You want that. You want the heaven war stuff with this. Yeah.
Right. And this felt really, really good. Just the, come back with your father and I'll give you guys free stuff. It's like,
my
no,
daddy's dead.
That's not happening yet.
Right.
But then Yato realizing, oh, I can choose my name. I can be Yato if I want to be. But I also see this guy here with a completely different name, with a completely different goal, a completely different skill set as well. One that's not even necessarily built specifically to do, the thing that he wants ultimately, because he keeps failing at it over and over again. But maybe that's not the point. Maybe it's the fact that he's putting in all this effort and desire, and he keeps going at it no matter what. He's born every time with that love for this world and stuff. And that's something that, because of all the effort that came from previous incarnations. So
because he was born into this world.
Yeah, and it's so good. And while I want more time with Ebisu to get to know him even more, he serves as that kind of focal point for Yato's development. So then when Yato and Yukine have their little moment, and Yukine's like, well, what are we doing here? It's Yato basically saying, I am now willing and able to tell you that I don't know what to do, which is the connection point that like they kind of needed after their big development in season 1 to be able to be completely honest with each other.
And if you think about the whole parent-child dynamic that Yato and Yukine kind of have. Like, a lot more so in like the first season, I feel like.
Yeah, they're more peers now.
Right, but they're more peers now. That is the ultimate progression of the parent-child dynamic, right?
That is
the
true.
child grows up. The child grows up.
True.
There is the not
rite
the
of passage, imperial regalia now.
Well, yes, that too. Yeah, coming of age, coming into their own. The disillusionment of realizing that their parent is flawed and has problems, and then they can actually be on equal footing and they can help each other out, right? And both realize that each other have different strengths and weaknesses. They lean on each other, compliment each other, all that stuff, right? And that's where they're at now, and I love it. It's great.
It's really good.
Also,
it's really good.
Also, the other thing that needs to be mentioned, absolutely needs to be mentioned. It's vital. Is all the good stuff we got with Kuro.
Yes.
You know, being like, you cleaned his room, while you're gone, aired out the mattress, and it's just like,
if you could just shape up and eat all the food that we give him.
Right, that actually like just stuck me right in the heart because the whole thing of like, he's just lazing around and not doing anything. Why doesn't he go out and being a contributing member of society?
Typical dad line number 1, typical dad line number 2.
But then the
third line of why does he just shape up and eat all the great food that we make for him?
Right. It's we're trying to take care of him and he's not cleaning his plate.
That hit me on 2 levels because we have him basically being like, I want to, help him in the best way I can. But damn it, I care about him. But then it's also the thing of Yato is so distraught right now with the whole Ebisu situation. The guy exploded in his hands.
Yeah. Then I thought that was just gonna happen immediately, but no, we get some final moments before the exploding. All right.
I don't want to die and crying. But then it's like, Yato, no, he's not eating everything right now. We saw him at the Olive Tavern.
And he got the little kid's meal with the flag.
But you know how Yato is with food and penny pinching and everything like that? He is so out of sorts right now that he's not gobbling up every bit of food he can because he's worried about where the next meal is coming, I
mean, he does have Cosmo's wallet right now, so
but that's the point though. Is he's so out of sorts that even having Kazuma's
he's not power tripping. Yeah,
he's not power tripping.
No, that's
he is
a
not
very good
even
point.
Eating really the food at all. Like he had his own little miniature hamburg steak version there with the little rice and everything, and he was just pushing the fork around. Like, that's how much this just got Yato out of sorts. And I like that as a way in which we're going to draw a point of reference to a thing that was a joke about his character constantly, that he's like, hey, you going to feed me?
Right. Free food?
Yeah. He is kind of the homeless god, basically, who's like, I don't know where my next meal is going to be. So, like, is it your treat? Your treat?
Right. It's like I wasn't offering, but is it?
But is it? Yeah, exactly. And also, I gotta say, there were a couple little moments of really cool animation, and yet my favorite one has to be the Yato running into freaking Vina Bishamon's estate with Ebisu in tow underneath his armpit there, and they just kind of watch him and they track his eyes going in there. They're like, what?
Yeah, and somehow they didn't realize that was Yato.
They didn't realize it was Yato, even though...
Who else would do something like that?
Even though she can also smell, like, the, Yato is nearby.
Yeah, you've got the one who can smell him and the Imperial Regalia, and they're like, wonder who that is.
Yeah. But it just felt like the perfect comedy scene amidst this really dreary time of, like, we just got someone, like, God-smited.
Also... There was another excellent moment in this episode that I kind of would have only expected to happen in an OVA. But the hello, mean McBitch face or whatever it was, like, when Ebisu comes up and he gives the wrong name. And she's like, kid, where did you learn such foul language? I'll have you know I could kill you 80 ways from Sunday,
Oh, that Yato said that was your real name.
He said that was your real name, and she's like, of course he did. Even though things are all patched up more or less and stuff, yeah, you know, still gotta
Yeah, Yato
get
is
some
still the
ribbing
funny
in.
uncle in this.
Funny uncle, yeah.
In this story.
But ain't it so much better than wanting revenge on him for killing your entire clan? Now it's just he's
a little shit.
He's a little shit, you know.
He corrupts other gods to troll you at times. I would just love to have a moment where someone like took that scene, but they rotoed Kazuma out and put in a different Kazuma that's like giggling or something and pushes up his glasses to be like, I'm not laughing, I'm just coughing.
But we know that would be completely out of character for Kazuma. He would never do such a thing.
Are you kidding me? I think he would be like rolling inside the fact that Ebisu as a little kid shows up and is just like, hey, mean lady.
Okay,
and he's just like,
here's what I can see Kazuma doing. I can see him going...
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. It's the, and then she'd look, and he, like literally, like tries to like.
It's terrible what that Yato's doing. I just can't believe it. It's awful.
But it also could be the kind of way in which we just get more goofy interactions. Just
Definitely
in general. But yeah, guys, this was a really good finale, though.
Yep.
The cathartic end to things with Hiro.
Ding
Nora,
dong, the bitch is gone.
aka Hiro, and. Like, I really, really want to get to know more about her character, just in general.
Like, because she has been one of the most interesting characters in the show, even though she's the get
the way.
Get
the name of the father and the do not want.
Right. Throw the salt. Like, yeah.
Shake 3 times, side step, toss it on the left shoulder,
Yeah.
Every time she leaves,
Incredibly entertaining character that we absolutely hate. So naturally, I want more.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the thing of I love particularly to shit on her because the way that she is introduced into every scene
is so damn good.
So good.
Yeah.
That it just actually gives me back pain. Like I'm just like, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yep.
And it's also just another reminder that Yato has a past.
Right, exactly.
And it's not something that he can run from.
Yep.
He has to face her.
With his friends.
And the fact that, can I bring this up? This is something that every once in a while, I think maybe a little bit too into things here, but I think that this one isn't just we want all the characters present for a thing.
Oh,
this is
I really like it.
The fact that he grabbed Yukine and was like, we're going. And yes, this is what we wanted. Like we've been talking about this for a long time.
Right.
Bring everyone here, have an intervention.
You're going to see the dangerous X come packing.
Exactly. It's not just him come packing
just in case.
with Yukine, but I think it's the thing of where he's like, I need to make sure I don't self-sabotage this.
And I also want you to see this.
Well, right, but I think because he knew, this is my theory, he knew Hiyori was watching. Because if he wanted to go to this spot, I don't think he had to go close enough to where she would be able to tell that he was on the move and thus pick up the scent.
I at first
and then
thought
follow him out.
I at first thought when it showed Hiyori that they were actually going to see her.
Like, I thought that too.
That's what I thought it was. And then it's like, oh, they're not. Oh, yes, perfect. All right, I love it.
Right. But the idea that if he did that, it's kind of like him saying, hey, I want you nearby so that I force myself to do this.
Yep.
So I'm kind of being held accountable. But I don't want you present for multiple reasons. And this is where I kind of feel like I'm reading a bit too much into it, but I feel like there's no real harm in looking this much into it. He's saying, I don't want you to be in any harm.
Yep.
So you're going to be far enough away that she won't threaten you or anything. Another angle of this, I don't want to see your face in the midst of this so that I feel like this isn't my decision.
Ooh, yeah, like it's like a guilted thing into it. This is my,
Yep, so you're not a part of the conversation. This is my problem.
Yep.
Then that's the other thing. I don't want you to be burdened by this. So if you pick up my scent
you don't have to
follow, then this is something where you're then making this choice here.
Right.
At any point, you can leave. But I just... I love the potential of it being any or all of these things.
Yep. Same.
So
I'm really glad you pointed that out because I totally would have missed that.
That's just one of those, like, little extra things where I'm like, hey, is this just a thing that
Hold
we
on.
want to have
Yeah.
Hiyori present for a really big character moment? Oh, no, not necessarily.
What if there was more to it?
What if there was more to it? Yeah. And again, the whole thing with the shrine now being apparently the god's respawn point. This means so much more than, well, what we initially thought. The fact then that Hiyori made this shrine means that...
That's huge.
Well, think about it this way. Yato's whole fear was of being forgotten, right? So he's going around and doing all these little 5 yen jobs. Just please remember me. Please help keep me around. Please let me survive on these little wishes that you have, because I don't want to be forced to kill people. That is not who I want to be. Hiyori, that whole thing was kind of an accident. Like, the whole sequence of events and stuff, he was helping her, but it was an accident that a lot of it went this way.
Right.
So it's almost like fate kind of dealt him a good hand, finally, for the first time in centuries. And he's like, oh, I don't know what to do with this, but okay.
Right.
And he's been so afraid of losing this connection here that he hasn't given her back, like, the means to fix her body and all that. But over the course of this time, like, she's such a wonderful person that she ends up really caring about you. And, you know, Yukine helped make it also a thing that he cared about.
It's a family, you know?
It's a family, exactly. But that shrine being now a place where he can then have a fallback, basically. That the love and care that she had for him is something that will remain in perpetuity if anything crazy happens. That just feels really good.
It warms your heart.
It warms your heart.
Yeah.
Because, you know, he always wanted one, and he has one, but we didn't really, I think, get even then how much of then a fear that must have been for him over his life.
It's a difference of being told something versus being shown something. Because, like, they told us a lot of the mechanics and stuff, and it's like, okay, yeah, so I get that this would be a big deal. But the idea that immediately after Ebisu died, boom, he's there at the shrine.
Yeah.
You know?
It
like that. Yeah.
That just says so much. Because I really do wonder then what would happen if Yato was truly forgotten. Would he respawn back at the shrine in a new incarnation of sorts?
I think so.
Or would the god be basically deselected off of the roster of gods?
If he was totally forgotten, then they've said that that's the one way a god can actually die. Is that if they die when they're forgotten, they're gone.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So then in this case, this is one of the biggest things that she could have contributed in the world, like spiritual mechanics and stuff like that.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, y'all, thank you so much, though, for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. Stick around, though. We're going to be
doing an OVA.
Doing the OVA. We are not done with Noragami.
Right.
This is the OVA that we mentioned in the intro.
Right.
I actually forgot the name.
It was like a picture or something like that, or
a picture together, I think is what it was.
Right.
But after that, we will be done with Noragami, and we have a poll that just recently finished there with that. There will be 3 shows that will be reacted to in sequence after Noragami there.
Yeah.
It's going to be The Promised Neverland Season 2. They're all sequels, by the way.
Yep.
Beastars Season 2, and then Dr. Stone Season 2. One after another.
If you haven't seen those shows, they are fantastic.
Yeah, so use this time now.
I highly recommend you watch them.
Yes, use this time now to go watch Season 1 of at least The Promised Neverland, so you're ready.
It's good television.
It's really good.
It's really good stuff.
But yeah, if you want to see that OVA's reaction right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see it there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.